Yo, Elliot. Yo, so today we got a question from my bro Clay Borelli, that's his name. He goes on to say, yo Elliot, I'm trying creatine and I'd like you to go over the right way to take this supplement modern version. So why would somebody ask about how to take a supplement modern version? Because back in the day when we used to use creatine, right? Like, I think creatine came out when I started lifting, right? It was right at the same time I started working out. Creatine like busted on the scene in the market. I want to say that was like around 1993, 1994. And back then they would have all kinds of wacky supplements, many of which didn't work. Not to say that that doesn't happen today, but customers are a little bit more keen today than they were back then. And when creatine busted out on the scene, it was like, wow, a supplement that actually works, right? And I know that it worked for me. I know 100% because when I started using it, granted I was in high school, but I had hit a roadblock in my strength. And my uncle, who was a bodybuilder, personal trainer at the time, was like, why don't you try creatine? And I remember seeing the ads for creatine, Phosphogain. I think it was called Phosphogain was the one that I saw ads for. And he was like, yeah, why don't you try this Phosphogain? And Phosphogain, and there was another one by Muscle Tech, Cell Tech. Those were like the two big ones at the time. Muscle Tech was a little bit later than Phosphogain. But I started using Phosphogain, and here's what you had to do. First of all, Phosphogain came in like a size of a protein shake, right? And the scoops were pretty big because they blended it with like Kool-Aid, right? It was like creatine came with Kool-Aid because they would tell you that you needed the sugars or whatever to shuttle it into your muscle, right? So all the creatine supplements came in these big things with a lot of creatine and sugar. Not only that, the instructions would always say for the first 5 days, you gotta take it like 5 times a day. So 5 times a day for 5 days, you're taking these big scoops of creatine and Kool-Aid and sucking them down. And so you had to have, they called that a loading period. So back then, you had to shuttle it into the muscle and you had to load it. Now, I don't know if creatine changed or we woke up a little bit or what. I don't know what happened, but modern day, that's why bro says modern day, nobody does that no more. I don't even think you buy Cell Tech anymore. Because at a certain point, people are like, why are we doing this? And then they stop buying it. I don't even think you can buy Phosphogain. I don't think you can buy any of that shit. That's what I started with. Cell Tech was even worse than Phosphogain. It was like a big drink. It worked. But it turns out all that is unnecessary. It turns out you don't need any of that. You just need pure creatine monohydrate. Even like different types of creatine over the years, I remember reading about, and I started using, in fact, when I first started Strongman, I was sponsored by a company that had a creatine called Phosphogain. What was it called? It was called, I said Phosphogain already. It was called creatinine. We started with a K. I just think it was a gimmick. I don't really remember. But if you go and look up like Elliot Holt's creatine videos back in the day, you'll see some where I'm like promoting it, talking about it. I think I have a funny one where I'm like eating the whole bottle and stuff. That's like, yo, Elliot 2008. Go check that out. I haven't made videos, some very popular videos on creatine way back in the day. So go watch those if you want to get a good giggle at old Uncle E. But now, apparently, you don't need to load, and I'm not so sure about the shuttling nutrients, if they're even necessary. So what I do, and from what I understand a lot of people do these days, is you just take 5 grams a day, right? You're using creatine, and it's usually just a little. I take creatine monohydrate, right? None of the fancy creatines. And I just take 1 scoop, put it in my post-workout shake, right? My post-workout drink is usually like sugar, right? Like, so I'll use like orange juice, some dextrose, or I'll use like a recovery drink from Living Fuel. I started using that recently. But the whole point is like I have a drink after my workout anyway, right? I like that refreshing orange flavored creamsicle drink that I made that Stan Efferding taught me, right? Put orange juice, you put a little bit of Greek yogurt, put a little bit of ice, blend it up. Oh, it tastes so good. In fact, I just finished drinking one, right? And I'll just dump my creatine in there. Like, it's like an afterthought. I don't even know I'm having it. I'm just like, oh, throw my creatine in there. And it's just 5 grams a day. 5 grams a day, Nothing special. Just take the creatine and you'll see that I don't know exactly how it works. I think it shuttles, I think it gives like energy through the ATP Krebs cycle somehow, maybe, into the muscle so that you can strain a little bit harder. That's what creatine seems to make me do. Like prior, if I'm not taking creatine, I'll get to a rep and it's like, I strain, but then I'm like, oh, I can't do it. But when there's creatine in there, you strain and then you're just like, Super Saiyan creatine, right? That super creatine, it just all of a sudden like you're just overcoming sticking points in your lifts. It's magic, creatine magic. So that's how you get the magic out of creatine. It's not that complicated. Just take it. Take 5 grams a day and you'll be okay. Done.